Hey guys, this is Corey from CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, and I wanted to talk to you today about All the Money in the World, written by David Scarpa, originally based on the book by John Pearson and directed by Ridley Scott. So, for this flick, we decided to venture outside of downtown a little bit and go to the Edwards Alhambra 14. And I mean, it was an alright theater. I don't know if I would specifically go back again. The staff were really having their troubles that night. There were a lot of people at the theater, but it's just kind of clear that they don't have the same sort of ability to manage the same type of crowds that like a Regal LA Live can. Like it just wasn't well managed, and the theater felt pretty dated. I mean, it's advertising the world's largest Pac-Man in their arcade, which is neat, but also kind of pointless in a sense. Like it was something to point at, but then I didn't really. It just felt very 90s multiplex, and unless they're playing something that I can't find anywhere else, probably won't go back. So All the Money in the World is about the abduction of John Paul Getty III, who was the grandson of John Paul Getty, who was the richest man in the world at the time of this movie, like when this movie was taking place. And all kinds of people were always trying to get money from Getty, and he was always telling them if he gave him money, then he wouldn't have any money for himself. And just very old and crotchety and very, like, he'll spend millions of dollars on painting, but he'll spend no money to try and free his grandson. The story sort of focuses on John Paul Getty III's mother, played by Michelle Williams, and the fixer for John Paul Getty, the guy who goes to negotiate on his behalf, played by Mark Wahlberg. I mean, so much of this movie is just based off of the top three on the cast sheet there. The movie largely depends on the performances of Christopher Plummer playing Getty, and Mark Wahlberg and Michelle Williams. And of the three, Michelle Williams, just as a perennial incredible actress, really shined in this performance. And I really loved what they did with Christopher Plummer there as well. This movie was famously shot originally with Kevin Spacey playing the Getty role before being replaced by Christopher Plummer. And I think that Christopher Plummer brought so much more to the role than I could have imagined I would have gotten from Spacey. I mean, I liked Spacey just fine during the point in his life where they would allow him to be in movies. But I feel like Christopher Plummer, in the end, was a fantastic choice, and really just brought this great, like, crushy old rich guy performance that we don't really see that much in movies anymore. The rich guy in movies has sort of been painted more recently with the like Wall Street, or like sort of American Psycho version of a rich guy. It's all more like scheming and figuring out all the little tricks and screwing over the little guy. Whereas Getty's, while they didn't sort of touch on how he rose to the point where he was, where I'm sure many of those dirty tricks were involved, it just sort of felt like he was just an old rich guy, like a Scrooge type of guy who just didn't want to learn his lesson. Going through, I really again just have to espouse the praises of Michelle Williams and how amazing she was in this film. I think she was far and away the best actor in this entire project. Christopher Plummer, like I said, did a phenomenal job. And Charlie Plummer, not related to Christopher Plummer, plays John Paul Getty III, the kidnapped grandson, and he does a truly wonderful job as well. So much of the discussion about this movie seems to be on sort of the outside factors, the Hollywood factors of this, with two sort of specific Me Too parallels in different ways. One with obviously Kevin Spacey having originally been J. Paul Getty and being reshot by Christopher Plummer, which, like I said, I think we sort of won out in the end with Christopher Plummer in that role. The other one being that as part of his contract for reshoots, Mark Wahlberg was supposed to get $1.5 million as opposed to Michelle Williams $1,000. And recently, Wahlberg and his agency, William Morris Endeavor, which also represents Michelle Williams, made a charitable donation for the Time's Up Foundation, which, I mean, I feel all right with it. I think it's it's tough to get stuck in the muckety muck of the business of films being made and how it influences your ability to enjoy it as like sort of a standalone piece of art. But this flick just seems to have trouble sort of getting out of its own way. And I think so much of it just has to do with the fact that it's not like it's stuck solidly in award season. Like its release date, it's stuck solidly in award season. But I don't know if anything about this movie is really awards. It doesn't feel like an Oscar pick to me as far as like the film goes. Certainly not stacked up against the other competition that it has this year. The writing was fine. I liked it. I don't know if I would espouse any special significance to the writing in this movie. Ridley Scott did a fine job behind the helm. If anything, I would consider giving some play to Michelle Williams and Christopher Plummer for their roles, but I could see a way how somebody can convince me that there's 5 more deserving actors at either award spot for them, which might make it tough to break through. But they were, in lesser years, these would have been performances that could have broken through, especially if there was a lot less noise associated with the things that are sort of exterior to the movie itself. So anyway, to the theater leaderboard, Regal LA Live still pulling up a front. The Edwards Alhambra 14, I do not imagine is going to get another tick in its direction, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And as far as this flick goes, I am going to give it a 7.4 out of 10. So that puts it right behind everything else. It's the lowest ranked movie I have in the list so far, but still a solid C, especially if you have something like MoviePass where you can go check it out and it doesn't cost you any additional money. It's certainly something that I would say if it shows up on Netflix, check it out. If it shows up on TV, it's worth checking out. But you don't need to make any special trip to go see it, because it's at this point it just seems a little bit lost in the news that sort of surrounds the picture, and it might be better suited to be watched on Netflix when people sort of forget about the issues revolving around it. Also, while Wahlberg does a good job, I felt Wahlberg running a little thin during this picture. I generally like him. I generally like movies that Wahlberg's in, but this one just felt like it could have done better with somebody other than Mark Wahlberg in the fold. It just felt like if something had happened where they would have to cut Wahlberg out of the movie and replace him with somebody else, we might be having a very similar conversation as we were having with the performance that Christopher Plummer gave us as opposed to what Kevin Spacey might have. But don't touch Michelle Williams, because she is a rock star in this one. And yeah, I mean, that's essentially it. If you're seeing this flick blind, well, good for you. You don't have anything holding you back, but the noise certainly did impact one's ability to enjoy this movie, I feel like, as well as they could have. Anyway, that's it for me. That's it for All the Money in the World. If you liked what I had to say, if you want to include other thoughts or comments, you can do that right below, or you can reach out to me on social media of all different kinds. My Corey Baker Filmmaker Facebook page is at Corey Baker Film, and you can reach me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat at LegendCB5, or my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com. Subscribe to the channel if you want to get more of my movie reviews, my thoughts and opinions on things going on in the entertainment industry, and keep it locked in for my next review. I'm going to go see a lot more movies this week and talk about them as I see them, so I hope you enjoy, I hope you tune in, and I look forward to talking to you all soon.